Welcome everyone to Pact Now Connect. Um, my name is Matthew Lewis. My pronouns are he, him, his. So I'd like to introduce, before we all go around, my co-facilitator for the evening. I'll let you tell yourself.
Well, I'm Naomi. I come from Children's, Wisconsin. Um, I'm here. I've been a lover of this book, and this has really, within the last year, did a really change on me within the last year. So I'm excited to be here and to talk about it with you all.
Awesome. Thank you.
The pervasive idea that trans women deserve violence needs to be abolished. Actually, that's not the one I wanted to go with. Sorry. According to the media, trans women were subjected to pain and punchlines. Instead of proclaiming that I was not a plot device to be laughed at, I spent my younger years internalizing and fighting those stereotypes. That really resonates with me because I was talking to you about this episode I was watching the other day, and nowhere in this episode of this show was this one character even involved in anything dealing with the show, but they made sure that they let us know that this person was a transsexual. She had no name. She didn't have a line in the show. Just a brief description, and the brief description was that this transsexual came to this party. She was nothing. And a lot of times, that's the story that has been printed about us. If you go back to all the CSIs and all that's the one thing that we are known for is the punchline or the joke, or we the sex worker outside. And although we support our sisters who are in that career field, that's not all we are. And I feel like as a young trans woman, and like with my sisters like Elle and stuff like that, one of the biggest things that we fight so hard for is like we have to fight those stereotypes in everything that we do. So like we have to like be bigger and better and show up and do all these different things because we are always looked at as these punchlines or these jokes. We are also always been the subject of pain. We're not seen as humans, or we're always seen as sexual objects. And when things happen to us, it's not taken seriously because society shows us that they were supposed to happen to us because that's the character we're supposed to play. And that's what is shown on TV. That is what's shown in everyday life. And being a young trans woman in a professional field, we feel like we have to constantly fight that even at work. So that really resonated with me, especially because these are stereotypes that even when they are calling us into the room to talk, they only want to talk about one thing. And we never get to express like she's a journalist or the different things that like that make us us. We only have to talk about like our sexuality, what type of sex that we have. Like we are always objectified in all our conversations, and then we are joked about in those conversations.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that was just definitely like a big part of what we talked about yesterday. And I think it hits home for me too for Janet because I remember her Breakfast Club interview, the disaster that was.
Hello.
And it just made me so sad because it made me sad for a number of reasons. I think one, people have this idea that Black communities are inherently more homophobic or transphobic than other communities. And it's not true, But here we have this high profile show with a predominantly African American audience, Black audience, excuse me. Oh, can I give a some of the interview? So she appeared on The Breakfast Club, and I believe this was around the time of her second book. Mm-hmm. And The Breakfast Club is a morning radio show hosted by Charlotte Todd, DJ Envy, and Angela Yee. It's a problem, but sometimes I think if you're
They don't love anyone on that show.
They don't.
They're problematic to every community.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes they get these really great people to interview and then use it as a chance to clown them. And I think with Janet, they have this really great opportunity to talk about her book, her experience, and her work in Hollywood. She's a producer and a writer on Pose. But they spent the majority of the interview focusing on her transition, and really, it was irresponsible. There was like a moment where they brought someone else in, and he like threatened. This was not where she was in the same room, but like a separate interview, and he like threatened bodily harm to her, and it was just like one of those moments where you're like, why? You had this chance to really have this meaningful discussion about this great work, these two great pieces of literature, this woman's fabulous career, and just like her life. And I didn't like it because that she was the punchline, and the interview was viewed because people were in the comment sections being awful. And again, like, we could also point to the Piers Morgan interview that was awful. But this one, unfortunately, I think because it's hip hop, because like the comedy was more boisterous, got a lot more views. And it's just a wasted opportunity. And I felt so bad because you want to be a part of your community, and here is your community on a public platform throwing you out. And as I said before, it furthers this narrative about the Black.
No matter how successful you are, no matter what position you're in. I was doing a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and someone asked me about bottom surgery, and they felt like I was disrespectful for not answering them and telling them that that's something I don't talk about. And I was just like, really? Like, I don't go around asking you guys about y'all genitals, but all of a sudden you want to ask me about mine? And why is that okay? But we have been subjected to this area where everything is it's up for grabs when it comes to a transform. You're able to ask them anything. You can ask them any surgery they had and things like that, which are very private things, unless someone wants to share them with you. But we have been pushed in these positions where they don't see us as that. We're basically open to whatever questions, whatever stereotype, whatever thought process they have. And no matter what danger or harm that puts on us emotionally, physically, verbally, whatever, no one cares or it's not taken seriously. Yes, the Katie Couric interview, that I instantly thought of that when I was in the middle of that conversation with that podcast, and I was just like, really, we're still doing this in today's day and age? But we don't even get the chance to be like, oh, I don't want to answer that. We have to subject around the question and go around it and learn how to maneuver around it, because if we do say no, we're seen as rude or disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they feel like we should just be happy to be in the room.